So in the last class, we were in the step to understand the processes, cycles, path, and steady and uniform flows. And I'll also talk today about temperatures, thermodynamic temperature scales and pressure. Let's see. So let me first write the definition of this process. Any change that a system undergoes from one equilibrium state to another equilibrium state. It means when I was somewhere at state 1, and that is my equilibrium state, and I may go somewhere at 2, which is also another equilibrium state, so to say. Okay. So whatever change that this system undergoes is called process. And the next definition I want to talk about is the path. That is also essential to know. The path is described as the series of states through which a system passes during the process. Process means the change which is being occurring, and series of states, those states through which a system passes. It means it may undergo, let me do one thing. Okay. So it may so happen that it in some sense, it undergoes from one equilibrium state to this equilibrium state through these series of way. So that is one path. It can also go something like this. I don't know, something like this. It may also undergo something like this. First, with some constant property. Let's suppose this is my constant pressure property. This is my, let's suppose this is my volume 1 and volume 2, specific volume 1 and 2. So from state 1, and it goes with same pressure, it goes from here to here, and then the specific volume is constant and it reaches here. It may undergo several other paths. It will depend upon the surrounding condition or the external condition what the system has been subjected to. Okay, so having said that, we have known this process and path in particular thermodynamic process, we should also look into a process called quasi-equilibrium process. This is very important phenomena to talk about in this particular course. What we will be looking into is we will always be more concerned about the processes that are quasi-equilibrium processes. The reason being, okay, before that, let me define what these quasi equilibrium processes are. When the process happens in such a manner that the system remains in equilibrium state all the time, all the times. So what does it mean? You are going from one state to another state, but I didn't talk in my previous slide. I didn't talk whether the intermediate steps was equilibrium or not. But here I'm talking that from going from 1 to 2, it should undergo some equilibrium. So each and every step, what intermediate steps it has followed was all these small steps were actually equilibrium states. Equilibrium means thermal equilibrium along with mechanical equilibrium, phase, and chemical equilibrium, right? All those things should happen all the times. Then only this whole process is called quasi-equilibrium. Process. So there are two advantages of having these processes in mind. First one is it is easy to analyze, but I mean, as an engineer, we should not care about this. But as an engineer, we should care about the second thing. What? The work producing devices deliver most of the work when they operate in quasi-equilibrium processes. It means whatever device you have, let's suppose you have a turbine or a reciprocating engine or pump, if they're at all they're at all undergoing equilibrium, quasi-equilibrium process from any state to any other state, you can extract maximum work out of it. That is the beauty of this particular equilibrium process. Okay, you can get the maximum work out of it. We'll see in the later section why we get maximum work out of it. We'll see in later sections. Okay, so let me go through an example. Let's suppose this is a piston cylinder arrangement and you have a piston that is moving to the left. Okay, so let's suppose the piston right now. Okay, let's talk about this non-quasi first. Okay, so let's suppose this piston is moving left with very high velocity or with very high momentum and jerk. Okay, then what happens? Let's suppose the air molecules or the fuel air mixture here. So the close vicinity, let's suppose till here, these molecules which is in close vicinity to the pistons will encounter a quick compression, right? This compression is so quick. If it is a fast compression, if this is so quick that the pressure at this particular region is very high momentarily, and the pressure is not able to distribute to the neighboring molecules. Okay, so in short, what happens here? You will have a jump in pressure in some region of your system. This whole is your control. Let's suppose this is your control volume and this is your system. You are considering, you are interested in to do the analysis, and you see that at some region you will have a very high jump of pressure, and this pressure is such that it is also not able to propagate the information. It means other molecules are not able to see what's happening there. Okay, so in some sense, this is not in proper equilibrium. This is not in equilibrium all the time. Okay, because system should the system as a whole should be defined. So whenever I fix a system, I should tell that my system has some pressure and some temperature as a whole, in holistic sense. Okay, but here in this case, when very fast compression is happening or non-quasic equilibrium is happening, the pressure you cannot precisely tell what your pressure is, because you have a jump in pressure at the vicinity of the piston. Whereas in the slow compression or a quasi-equilibrium process, what we do, let's suppose we have this system control volume. I've chosen this control volume. When this piston is moving, and since this is moving very slowly, so the molecules that are being compressed are so slow that the pressure as a whole, you can write as a whole, as a holistic pressure, 1 atm or 10 atm or whatever. As a whole you can write, but here you cannot write. Okay, so in the most of this thermodynamics course, we will try to be in this limit, and we will not go into this non-quasic equilibrium processes, because it is first, it is not easy to analyze, and second, this is having maximum work output if at all we are devising any device or any work producing devices such as turbine, pump, reciprocating engines, and so. Okay, any doubt so far in this particular?
No, sir.
Okay, and this quasi-equilibrium process is also called as reversible process. Sometimes you might have heard this word reversible process. It has gone reversibly. Okay, so when I talk about second law of thermodynamics, I will talk more about reversibility and irreversibility. So basically, in order to achieve the reversible process, and which is a good thing, to keep your things in a reversible manner, so that entropy generation is not much. So basically, this quasi-equilibrium process is associated with, or is directly implies to, the reversible processes as well. We'll talk more about reversible processes in due course. Okay, next, so these small things which we are talking about are the building blocks to understand and to design. Kindly mute yourself. Try to be mute yourself. Okay. Okay. Anyways. So what I'm telling, these are the building blocks to achieve a bigger target. So we are in a process. We are in a step towards learning or designing a proper thermodynamic devices, advantageous devices. We can get the work out of it, and all those things. So we need to understand these small things in order to understand better. If we want to devise, make some proper work producing devices and thermodynamic analysis if we want to do. Okay, so the next important thing I want to talk about is, you might have heard uniform process or uniform flow or steady flow. So can someone comment on anything you know about uniformity and steadiness? Anyone? Akash? Or anyone?
Go, Krishna, go.
So uniform it remains constant with uniform means it remains constant, different position.
Very nice.
And steady means it remains constant with
Time. Very nice. Thank you. Yes, Krishna is right. If Krishna has told this, so uniform is as uniformity. It was, who was this?
Om Sukhadia.
Om. Okay, I will remember your name also. Akash, Om, and Krishna. Okay. So uniformity is associated with space, and steadiness is associated with time. So uniformity. So let's suppose I have a container like this. Some mass is coming in and going out with having some fluid temperature, which there are some regions with the same fluid is having a temperature 300 degrees C at top left corner. But here at top right corner, it became 250 because of some heat interactions with surroundings or so, or maybe some process is like this, and in between it is 225, 200 here and 150 here. So obviously this is not a uniform flow, or not a uniform process. Okay, so basically in space things are not same. So in many thermodynamic analysis, we don't need uniformity, because there might not need be. I mean, if everything is same, then why you are doing the analysis? If 300 is everywhere, then we don't care about doing analysis. The analysis term comes into picture only when there is a potential differentiality, uniformity wise, 300 here, 200 here, or maybe we can get something. There is a potential, there is a heat transfer will occur, and with this heat transfer we can get work out of it, or and many more so things. So in general, uniformity we don't want to study, or in some sense we don't want it uniformity to happen. Okay, the most critical thing we in this particular course, we are more interested in the steadiness of the process. It means the process, it may be non-uniform, but it should be steady with time. The process which is steady with time. When I measure this particular control volume, and when I measure the temperatures over these regions at, let's suppose time is equal to 1 p.m. and I come after 2 hours, and when I see that things are still the same, okay, it means my device is working steadily. Okay. Okay. And most of the devices work producing devices are having steady flow process, and it is safe to assume also. I'll tell you, steady flow processes. Let's take your turbine, your pump. So I want a pump to operate in steady manner, not in uniform manner. Uniformity, even I don't want uniformity, but I want my turbine to let's suppose what is the purpose of your pump? Let's suppose your pump. So anybody know what is pump? So pump is a work producing device that basically increases the fluid pressure, and we can take the advantage by bringing your still water to overhead tanks. Okay, then it will be supplied through the channels, through the pipes. So basically, once you increase the pressure, it can achieve some height, and you can actually save some cost, some money out of it, because every time you need not to pump to everybody's home just to get the water on top of your roof in one time, and just with gravity, you what you do, you will channelize your pipes to all the homes. Okay, so basically pump increases pressure of the fluid. So basically what I need, the pump should be working at some particular working condition. I want that pressure to be jumped from 1 atm or 1 bar to 10 bar or 10 atm all the time. All the time. I don't want pressure to fluctuate here at this end. ओके मैं 1 बजे आ रहा हूँ, मुझे दिख रहा है 8 एटमॉस्फेरिक प्रेशर मिल रहा है, मैं 10 बजे आ रहा हूँ, मुझे दिख रहा है 7 मिल रहा है, वो नहीं चाहता हूँ. आई वांट थिंग्स टू बी स्टेडी ऑपरेशंस, एंड दिस इज व्हाट we are more interested in, steady flow processes, and that is what actually should be our concern if we are making some work producing devices or heat exchangers or anything, refrigeration devices and many more, right? Okay, someone may ask that, okay sir, आपका कार का इंजन जो होता है, let's suppose this is your car engine, you have a piston cylinder arrangement. Let's suppose you have a crankshaft connecting rod and it is moving, it is going up and sorry, this is my inlet, this is my outlet, this is your typical petrol engine. Here the fuel is being burning and in and out. Okay, so someone will tell, sir, mass in and mass out here are pulsating in nature. Okay, that is a valid question. So can I assume steady flow process here? Okay, so my argument is it is actually in reality is not steady flow process because it's changing with time. Okay, if you measure, if you take a probe over here, let's suppose some pressure measuring device, pressure gauge here, your pressure here keeps on fluctuating with time. Okay, this is your time. But what my argument would be, if you average over some greater time, if you average it out, you will definitely get average some sort of average pressure in some sense. Okay, so even though if we do the time average of the quantity, we can safely assume that my process is steady flow process as long as these are periodic in nature. Periodicity should be there. If periodicity is not there, we cannot assume steady flow process. It is quite random and it will be chaotic. But even if the things are pulsating, since it is moving with certain frequency, this crankshaft is moving, going with some RPM, with certain frequency or some RPM, some let's suppose some steady RPM, the pressure fluctuation at some place inside this fuel chamber will be periodic in nature. Okay, so in periodicity, I can safely average it out in time average sense. I can get actually average pressure, and we can then safely assume the steady flow process is happening in time average sense. Okay. So these things have, this steady flow process has a very large implication to design thermodynamic work producing devices. Okay, that is why it is important to understand this. Okay, next thing I want to talk about, there are few processes that you might have done, understood in your high schools also, if I'm not wrong, 9th, 10th also. Isothermal processes, let's suppose I have some quantity P and a specific volume. I'm going from 1 to 2, and I'm going, I don't know, like this, but this process happens at constant temperature. I kept my temperature constant throughout somehow, by some means. We'll see how we are going to do that. Then this process is isothermal process. If I'm going from 1 to some, let's suppose this is my 3 equilibrium state, and I'm going with constant volume. So this is called isochoric process. This one, isochoric process. This is isothermal process. When I'm going from here to straight, let's suppose 1 to 4, and then this is at constant pressure, some P dash pressure. This is isobaric process. So there are some means. I may also go adiabatically also. So adiabatically means there are no heat addition or heat transfer, that is there is no heat interaction with the boundaries. Okay, so it is perfectly insulated and there are no heat interactions. Then you may go something like this. I don't know, maybe something like this, or maybe something like this, from 1 state to 2 state itself, or maybe 5 state here. But if it has been done insulation wise, your things were insulated and there is no heat addition, then your process is called adiabatic process. So we will also look more detail calculations and what are the different work or heat during these processes that has been heat and work interaction during these processes in later chapters. We'll definitely see. But this is just introduction to these processes. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is the cyclic processes. Cyclic processes is the process where the initial states, and this is also important, initial state, or whenever I'm talking about initial state, you should be keep in mind that I'm talking about equilibrium state always. Initial state and final state are same. Then the process is called cyclic process. So let's suppose you start with 1, you go somewhere like at 2, and you come back again. May not be in the same path, maybe other path, but again you came back 3rd, and 3 is equal to 1 is the same state you achieved. Same state means your P1 and T1 is equal to P3 and T3. Okay, then you tell that you have your process undergoes a cyclic process. And this cyclic process are having very large implications in work producing devices, in reciprocating work producing devices, because essentially at this point you will see in later chapters that at this particular point, this particular state, since 2 states are same, the change in internal energy we will talk about is 0. So your heat, whatever is given to the system, is directly equal to your work. So you can, whatever the heat you have inputted, you will get the work out of it if your processes are cyclic in nature, since your internal energy is 0. Change in internal energy is 0. We'll talk about in detail, but keep in mind that initial states and final states are same in this cyclic processes. Okay, we have talked about first law and second law in very brief manner. There are some, we have forgot about talking about the 0th law of thermodynamics in that time. And there is one more 3rd law of thermodynamics as well. We'll talk about in subsequent chapters. But first, let's talk about the 0th law of thermodynamics. So this is very obvious thing. This is very trivial thing, you could say, to talk about. But this also has an implication towards the thermodynamics, thermodynamic nature, to understand the temperatures. How? Let me tell you first what thermodynamic 0th law of thermodynamics is. Let's suppose you have a thermal body A, which is having some temperature T, and which is in thermal equilibrium. I'm not talking about other equilibriums. I'm just talking about thermal equilibrium. So don't confuse here. It is purely thermal equilibrium, not other equilibriums. So if A is in thermal equilibrium with C and B is also thermal equilibrium with C, it means both have achieved the same temperatures. Then A and B are also having in thermal equilibrium. This is so obvious that we need not to tell this, but the triviality will come, will have some consequences, because of this triviality we can actually devise, or we can actually manifest, the temperature measurement out of it. How? Let's suppose I am going to replace this third body with my thermometer. Let's suppose this is my thermometer. Okay. And if A is in thermal equilibrium with this thermometer, so whatever the temperature that it will read, it will have, and this is having thermal equilibrium with V, so this temperature will be same as T. So without going into, without measuring it, I can tell that it has this much temperature. So we can actually measure the temperature. So it has a manifestation towards the measurement of the temperature. That is why thermodynamics law came, and although it is very trivial, but it has the manifestation towards the measurement of temperature. That is what I want to tell in this particular slide. Okay, and even if the key thing is, even if they are not in contact, but if we know that it's in thermal equilibrium, it will have same temperature. Okay, and let's talk about the thermodynamic scales which we talk about. So basically, first, I just wanted to ask you guys, what do you mean by temperature? And what do you mean by pressure, before moving into the next slide? Anybody apart from these three, Krishna, Om, and Akash? How do you define temperature?
How much energy it uses is temperature.
Yeah, basically,
Temperature.
Temperature is basically the degree of
hotness.
Degree of hotness and coldness. Okay, so this hotness and coldness is a very loose word. Okay, hotness, it will depend upon person to person. Okay, we have to look for proper measurement devices, okay, for these temperatures. For that we need some scales. Okay, so in I think in 1700, first Fahrenheit, or probably these two, Fahrenheit was a researcher, Celsius as well. So both have devised a scale. So Celsius, what he told, the melting point of ice, he kept it as 0 degrees C, and the boiling point at 100 degrees C at 1 atmosphere. So this is critical, 1 atmosphere. So since we are thermodynamic engineer, we should not talk loosely. So 0 degrees C and 100 degrees C are the melting and boiling points of water at 1 atmosphere. If we increase this pressure and these pressure values, these things will change. So as an engineer, we should not talk about loosely all the time. We should be more precise. Okay, this is what is the difference between normal common people and we engineers. We should talk we should not talk loosely all the times. Okay, anyways, so he devised that this is your melting point and this is your boiling point, and this he take up as a scale. Okay, why he have choose that? Because hotness and coldness are subject to the human conditions. I as a human, I feel more cold. Okay, so I may be feeling more cold than you. Okay, so we should have a proper scaling thing, and he devised this particular scale. Okay, and these scales and Fahrenheit, where it is, I think 32°F was the similar thing here, and this is 212 probably Fahrenheit for boiling point. So both gave same sort of scales, but in different scaling factors. Then came this Kelvin, and this is also adopted SI unit, Kelvin. Initially it was degree Kelvin, then degree was removed somehow in later times. The Kelvin, so this is basically this Kelvin temperature scale is not dependent on the physical properties that water or any substance possesses, because these temperature scales are dependent on when is things are boiling and when are your melting. Okay, on depends upon the physical physics of the substance. But this Kelvin scale was not dependent on physics of the substance. Why? Because it only tells that the absolute zero you cannot achieve. So the minimum scale of the temperature Kelvin is 0 Kelvin, and which is an ideal condition you cannot achieve, and that we call absolute temperature also. And we will talk more about 0°Kelvin in second law of thermodynamics when we talk about. But just now, just keep in mind these particular things. Okay, this is physics bed. This is based on its physical substance, physical properties, and this is not. That is why it is widely used also. And okay, before moving into pressure, this is a very loose statement, degree of hotness and coldness. So temperature actually, if you talk in terms of microscopic scale, it is basically the average kinetic energy of the molecules in some average sense, and that manifests this temperature. Okay, in microscopic scale, if you have molecules have some random kinetic energies, and if you sum it up, or sorry, average it out, and then the averaged quantity that comes out of macroscopically we feel it as a temperature. Okay, you guys might not be knowing this, but this is a very technically it is more better definition of a temperature rather than degree of hotness and coldness. In similar fashion, pressure in loose sense, what you guys pressure you tell? Force that a fluid is acting or experiencing per unit area, right? But this is also a loose statement, because this is a macroscopic macroscopic feel that you are getting out from microscopic phenomena that is happening. And what is happening here? The molecules randomly collide each other, and the average momentum transfer, that a collection of molecules that are colliding each other, and the average momentum that is being transferred in holistic sense, in microscopic sense, you feel it as a pressure. Actually, it's not force per unit area. Actually, it's average momentum transfer of the molecules inside it. Okay, and in macroscopic sense, we measure it as a pressure, and here also we measure it as a temperature, average kinetic energy. Okay, but obviously we have already talked about, we will not pinpoint or things in microscopic manner, because it is tedious also, and it is not advantageous also. But because the reason is, once we measure some pressure, and we are fine with that. Why do we need to know that what's happening inside the molecules? Okay, we just want what is the pressure, what is the work I can take out of it, and those things. That is what we engineers are happy with this, as long as we are efficient in our devices. That's it. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I mean probably I will not go details about the pressure, I mean manometers and pressure gauges, all those things you might have been knowing. So it would be very clumsy to talk all things. Okay, you guys know that Pascal's law and all those things, right? So I will not go into those details. Fine? Is it fine with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And fluid pressure is same throughout in same horizontal line level. These things you know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so this ends with our first introductory chapter, and we will start tomorrow. This particular chapter, energy transfer and energy analysis. With this particular question, I want to ask you guys. We have just for open-ended question I will ask today, and let you guys think tomorrow, and we'll, or maybe the next class. In the next class, we'll discuss what's happening here. So the problem statement what I am posing on you is we have a well insulated room here, and the fan is operating at some speed and the air is coming out of here. So my question, and this is well sealed and well insulated room. So my question is, will the temperature of the room decreases or increases or remains same?
Sir,
This is the
increases.
question. This is the
Increases,
question I
sir.
want to pose you guys. But you guys think. Okay, let other guys think, because some of you might be knowing it. But let other guys think over it, and then we will take up this example in numerical way also in the next next subsequent class. Okay, keep in I will ask why also in the next class. Okay. Okay, any
Okay, thank you.
question so far?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll take attendance first, and then you guys can move ahead. So today 117. So how many what is the strength of this class?
Sir, 120 maybe.
120. Okay, then it's fine. I thought it's